All these people thirst for knowledge, and they could get it from a device which ruthlessly demands the attention of millions, a machine capable of slinging images and sounds into every home in the land. TV could teach you a new language, parade the entirety of history in front of your face, or it could simply distract you with brightly coloured bibble. We all want to fill our brains with information, yet only few of us know as much as we think we know.
How much do you know?
What, of the whole thing? About 20%, 25%?
OK. What did everyone in the world do yesterday?
I don't know.
You don't know any of that, do you?
No.
How many atoms are there in the floorboards you're standing on? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Maybe we never really learned anything from TV, but were simply transfixed by it, like apes dazzled by technology.
This week, how TV ruined your life by trying to actually tell you stuff. Don't say it didn't, it did.
I'm going on a journey to find out just how much I've learned from television. It's a journey that will take me the length and breadth of part of the country over a period of time.
Sorry, I've just remembered I don't know how to drive.
What's that?
I can't drive. This isn't my car. I'm not qualified to drive.
Along the way, I'll be overcoming obstacles and doing my best to appear thoughtful, as though I'm coming to some sort of realisation about the visual language through which TV experts impart their knowledge, and not just staring stupidly out of a window. I'm hoping that pulling a thoughtful face will make me look like a proper documentary type, like Andrew Marr, seen here stylishly walking around America in a load of fascinating linking sequences shot for a clever politics documentary. He walks around and he stops and looks at things and thinks for a bit and then walks out of shot, and then he marches like a Terminator looking for a toilet, striding upstairs, gliding through sliding doors, getting reflected in glass, and all the time he looks really rather profound, even when he's just having a piss against a wall. I hope I look that convincing as I walk into this railway station. Television is a bit like a busy railway terminus, filled with competing streams of information bustling hither and thither, each of them capable of snaking out in different directions, much like branch lines. Well, no, of course it isn't really, but that gave me something vaguely philosophical to say over these pedestrian shots of me getting onto a train, where I start my journey by looking intently at a newspaper, because the world of TV knowledge basically started with the news. Early news broadcasts were stern announcements from the authorities consisting of little more than still photographs and explanatory diagrams backed with a vocal summary. The BBC newswallers believed moving pictures would distract the viewer and prevent them from absorbing the informational content. Gradually, TV news loosened up and began to realise the advantages it had over newsprint. Unlike their desperate medieval ink and paper counterparts, TV reporters could use the moving image to make otherwise mundane stories more interesting and immersive.
This filthy smoke and chemical smog is again attacking the people for whom there's most danger, the people with chest and heart troubles.
The translation of news into TV grew more sophisticated. The newsroom arrived, there were more interesting graphics, and instead of a letters page, vox pops with the public.
Can I interrupt you, Tick? Are your prices up a lot?
Yes, sir. Our prices are up on according to transport and difficulties in getting it, and us pulling our guts out to fetch it to the public on their table.
And when major events occurred, the printing press was left standing by television, which could interrupt you in your own home to depress the arse off you.
Over to the newsroom.
The death of John F. Kennedy happened in Dallas at 12:25.
And what's more, rather than reading wordy dispatches from overseas war reporters, TV viewers could follow the journalists into the thick of the action. They didn't even wait for the gunfire to stop before filing their reports.
It's heavy artillery support for the Americans, and because of this, they're not immediately likely to lose out here.
TV news grew even more dynamic as colour television arrived, making events seem increasingly vivid and dispiriting and brutal and all horrible-like. Unless, like me, you enjoy a nice violent riot with a lovely shepherd's pie and a glass of chocolate milk.
Riot police were extremely fierce, often...
It happened ages ago, it's funny. Faced with a medium that made current affairs more exciting, newspapers were forced to zhuzh up their own content, downplaying their comparatively dry news material and adding frothier piffle, which was proudly and exhaustively trumpeted in the gaudy adverts of the time.
Uncanny, unbelievable,
This man claims a Welsh housewife under hypnosis returned to 6 previous lives. Can this be so? The amazing evidence in tomorrow's Sunday Mirror. Tommy Steele reveals the agony of staying at the top. And girls, how to get your man. A dozen ways to look more sexy, plus win this dream outfit in the marvellous Sunday Mirror tomorrow.
But television wasn't content to simply provide a window on the world to show what was happening now. It had grander ambitions. It wanted to show you the whole of civilization.
Landmark documentary serials such as Civilization and the epic The Ascent of Man turned your TV into a home-based lecture theatre, but a bit less boring than I've made that sound.
The Ascent of Man in particular was a huge achievement. Filmed over 3 years, it whisked the viewer around the globe in the company of warm, erudite academic Jacob Bronowski, who explained the history of mankind's scientific advancement using a deft combination of eloquent monologues, pioneering computer graphics, and an intelligent use of imagery to make education fun.
As well as landmark documentaries about real events, there were landmark dramas based on real events.
When TV turned history into drama, it cast Shakespearean actors and dressed them like tapestries, and even though it was cheap and stagey, it was somehow convincing.
I mean, that's barely a tree, that's not outdoors, but bloody hell, that might be Henry VIII.
Television's mix of compelling fact and authentic drama was instructing viewers of all ages.
Television started instructing me back when I was a kiddywink. Occasionally a TV would be wheeled into the classroom, a bit like a robot teacher. And this was exciting because it didn't feel like school. It felt like a break from school. Even if the programme you were watching was boring, it was better than being bored by a live human being.
With their storybook visuals and focus on primary concepts, schools' programmes were an attempt to subtly plant fresh questions in Kiddywink's minds.
Questions they'd never considered before.
Hello. Have you ever thought how important numbers are?
No.
Have you ever noticed how interesting human faces are?
No.
Have you tried looking at yourself in a kettle since last week?
Yeah, actually I have. Trouble is, the presenter's methodical, basic use of language is inherently creepy.
Yes. Day.
It's a bit like you're coming round from a brain injury and they're a bunch of well-meaning nurses sent to rehabilitate you.
Hello. Did you comb your hair when you got up this morning? I forgot, so I'm doing it now.
And I'm not sure why, but for some reason, whenever I watch them, I feel a bit like I'm a homicide detective and they're a suspect trying to act natural.
Hello. I didn't expect to see you. The shop's not open, I'm afraid. You can see what I'm doing if you like.
Oh, yeah. Where were you on the night of the 6th?
And if the presenters weren't creepy enough, their various puppety animated co-stars were downright petrifying.
Let's go in.
Woo! Get out! Whenever your TV turns into an instructive words and pictures light show like this, there's something faintly sinister about it. What with the haunting music and visuals and the faintly medicated air of some of the presenters, I think the only thing I learnt was to intrinsically mistrust everyone and everything on television.
Why don't you draw a picture of something that really frightens you?
Yeah, all right. What does a vagina look like?
But while schools' programmes were unintentionally frightening, it's worth reflecting, as I sit here, that television often deliberately used fear-mongering means to train younger viewers to look after themselves.
In 1977, rural areas of the UK were treated to Apaches, very much the Citizen Kane of terrifying educational films. This 50-minute summer holiday snuff fest told the story of a gaggle of young dimbos who repeatedly go to play on a local farm, despite the fact that one of them dies there every bloody day. Like all good movies, Apaches had its own trailer, seen here squashing one of the cast.
A few years after Britain's rustic kids stared at carnage in horror, across the pond, children were subjected to an even more terrifying and lurid kind of warning.
This is my future?
It is if you don't get off those drugs.
Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue is the powerful story of a teenager dealing with drug and alcohol abuse.
Some of your favorite cartoon characters will help you understand how drugs and alcohol can ruin your life.
Me, I want some heroin.
This crude alarmist TV propaganda was a bad trip for millions of American kids.
Of course, we didn't get to see that on this side of the pond, which is why we're all so well adjusted, but we were exposed to moral instruction from some of their other cartoons. For instance, almost every line of dialogue in the garish epic Thundercats seemed to be jammed with so much heavy-handed moral guidance, it's amazing there was any room at all for the vowels and consonants.
Rules are only meaningful if people agree to follow them. Otherwise, they're just words.
I'll go and edit The Guardian. But perhaps the most strident moral supervision was smuggled inside the animated epic He-Man, which was preachier than 9 priests glued to a schoolmaster and which regularly culminated in a philosophical lecture from one of its stars.
As we've just seen, Skeletor went back into the past to make evil things happen. In reality, no one can go back into the past. That's only make-believe.
Don't patronise me, I'm not stupid, although I am 39 and bickering with He-Man.
But we can try to learn from the past, from things that have happened to us.
Love to know what happened to make you dress like that. I'm guessing something with his uncle. Of course, we fondly remember He-Man because we learnt so much from it. Just as we fondly remember the cartoon based on Terry Wogan's Chat Show from the 80s. Everyone remembers that. Just ask the man in the street.
Do you remember the Wogan cartoon in the 80s?
The Wogan cartoon? No, I don't. But I remember the cartoons in the 80s, in my day, was Thundercats, Jason the World Warriors, Scooby-Doo Mysteries.
But the Wogan thing was it was like an animated version of Terry Wogan's Chat Show. It was called Wogan.
Oh yeah, do you know what? Thinking about it, yeah, I do actually remember that now. I think it was on CITV.
Wogan. In today's story, we heard the actress Lorraine Chase explain how people often judge her because of her Cockney accent. They treat her as though she's simple, even though before becoming a model, she invented the communication satellite, the shoe tree, and even the laser cow. Lorraine is living proof that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, even a talking book with heavy mascara.
What about one in a 10-gallon hat?
Even you, JR. Oh, yeah.
But I suppose the Wogan cartoon doesn't actually tell us much because it was in fact part of a fictional daydream I had while gazing out of this window. This line between fiction and fact on television used to be clearly marked until it began to leave such familiar territory behind to move into new, less concrete areas. Viewers generally believed what they saw on screen, even though TV occasionally told entertaining fibs, such as the famous Panorama report on the Italian spaghetti harvest.
But in 1977, Anglia TV went several leagues further with Alternative 3, a sophisticated hour-long hoax in the style of an existing documentary strand called Science Report. It made eerily convincing claims that a shadowy cabal of scientists and world governments were conspiring to build a habitable base on the surface of Mars, and it ended with what purported to be footage of a US-Soviet Martian landing in 1962, culminating in something creepy wriggling around beneath the Martian soil.
My God, what is that? Something moving. Something moved there. What the hell is it?
But the row that followed Alternative 3 was nothing compared to the stink left behind after the BBC's Ghostwatch. Although scripted, Ghostwatch took the form of a live supernatural TV special fronted by several familiar, well-loved faces, Michael Parkinson, Mike Smith and Sarah Green. But it also played host to a more sinister and unsettling presence.
Bill! I bet that scared you, didn't it? No, this is not a mask. This is Craig Charles live, you lucky people.
Oh, and there was also a ghost, an evil spirit known as Mr. Pipes, who, it was alleged, was causing simply dreadful goings-on in a North London home. At the time, viewers weren't accustomed to this kind of verite horror, and as all hell quite literally broke loose on location and things grew increasingly horrible in the studio, the repeated fleeting appearances of Mr. Pipes, seen here in the bedroom, here reflected in the glass, and here on CCTV, left many viewers genuinely terrified out of their wits. In the days before Sky Plus, it wasn't possible to rewind and check that you'd seen what you thought you'd just seen, and Ghostwatch knowingly toyed with viewers, replaying footage of one of Pipes' appearance later with him missing, so that viewers would start to think they were seeing things.
Can we go forward slowly?
Sure. No, I'm doing that now. That's slow enough. I can't see anything now myself. False alarm?
Things reached a chilling conclusion as it transpired the broadcast itself was acting as a nationwide séance channeling evil forces, and Michael Parkinson was left wandering around an abandoned studio like a Yorkshireman possessed. After Ghostwatch was broadcast, many were furious to discover they'd been tricked by a cunning blurring of fact and fiction.
You used factual presenters. You meant people to be deceived.
You toyed with the emotions of the audience because the audience weren't actually sure, or I wasn't actually sure if it was fact or fiction.
Ghostwatch had confused people by being a piece of fictional entertainment masquerading as fact. Shortly afterwards, a new genre in which fact masqueraded as fictional entertainment rose in popularity. Nosy Parker Fly-on-the-Wall documentary series, exemplified by the original 70s incarnation of The Family, had been around for several decades.
It is going to be a tremendous intrusion into your privacy, because we will film everything.
But during the 90s, they morphed into a populist new genre, the docu-soap, which made stars of regular incompetent people spoons, such as Maureen Rees from Driving School.
Whoa! Whoa! For Christ's sake!
She nearly killed someone. Before long, docu-soaps were focusing more heavily on the soap aspect, turning their participants into bona fide stars.
And this lady is, she's going to be a very big star. She really is a wonderful talent. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Jane McDonald.
These were documentaries with all the factual information stripped out. Well, nearly all. There was still room for the odd statistic.
By the end of this week, you will have eaten, in total, 40,000 pounds of meat and poultry.
Imagine if when the passengers shat it all out, it came out the back of the ship in a long, unbroken turd rope, like the ones that hang off goldfish, you know. Anyway, that's a side thought, best to ignore it.
And just as documentaries were under pressure to become more populist, so was the news. Ever since satellite news first appeared, the landscape had become more competitive and the fight for impact intensified.
This is Sky News. 10 Britons will sell their kidneys to this man.
As a consequence, across the board, the graphics steadily became more fearsome and bombastic, the sets more cavernous and self-important, and the delivery more theatrical.
The Liberal Democrats have accused the other two parties of gazing into the gutter.
And part of this more crowd-pleasing approach was that the opinion of the viewer grew steadily more important.
This situation reached a peak in 1997 after the death of Princess Diana, when the opinion of the man in the street actually became the emotive focus of much of the news coverage.
Good evening. It's been a day like no other. A day for the people stunned by the news of Diana's death, and a day that rewrote the rules about how a grieving nation should react.
The outpouring of emotion just grows by the day.
Queen's not in residence today, but where the hell is the flag? Eh? You see what I'm saying about the establishment?
Current affairs was no longer a stern proclamation from the establishment and was becoming more like a public sounding board.
News in general had started to move away from explaining the world to us and move towards us explaining our view of the world to them.
If you've got a story to tell, we'd love to hear from you. The email address, as always, yournews.
All the while, the internet was starting to overtake TV as a source of instant news. And just as newspapers reacted to TV by becoming spicier, so TV news morphed into rolling news, in which everything became a sensational non-stop crisis full of incremental, horrible developments.
We can now tell you that he's actually unconscious and his kidneys have stopped working.
It's become a hope-sapping broadcast from the depression dimension as someone simply reads aloud a list of the worst events in the world.
He killed his 74-year-old grandmother, also his mother, his uncle, his cousin, his 15-year-old second cousin. In addition, he killed a baby who was 18 months old. He killed a sheriff deputy's wife. He killed 2 pedestrians. He killed a petrol station assistant. He killed a motorist. He shot the chief of police, and he shot himself. We'll let you digest that for a moment, and we're going to be back with all today's top stories and indeed the business news.
Thanks for that.
Today's news often seems to be about nothing but the thrill of the chase, an endless parade of fresh horror piled upon fresh horror. No time for reflection, just pictures. Look at this, then look at this. Come on, tune in, rubberneckers, have a bloody good gawp.
We'll just come underneath this cordon. Barry, the cameraman, can you get under here? We'll just forgive the camera just
moving around.
Soon it all becomes meaningless, which has the side effect of making reality itself feel somehow unreal, like a work of fiction writing itself, a destiny beyond our control, and all we can do is stare at it in stunned desperation. And if 24-hour news was stranding viewers in a nihilistic wilderness, the other source of knowledge, the TV documentary, had changed too. Where once documentary experts were expected to speak and walk around like academics, there's a growing assumption that today's viewer won't pay attention to facts unless there's a star attached, preferably one with a shaky link to the subject.
For instance, because the actor Ross Kemp played a hard ex-soldier in EastEnders, he was considered an ideal choice to send to Afghanistan to show us how a real war works.
It's the most exciting morning I've had in a very long time, I can assure you of that.
And weirdly, it turned out he's actually pretty good at this, all of which opened the floodgates for other celebrity experts. One consistent thumbprint of expertainment is to confuse fictional characters with the actors that portray them. So, because he played a vet in African-based Wild at Heart, ITV thought it would be a good idea to send Stephen Tompkinson animal mending round Africa. In fact, even Tompkinson seems to have forgotten he's an actor.
My journey begins in Tanzania on Africa's east coast, where I'll test my veterinary expertise with some of the hardest working vets in the world.
And if you need an expert on cats, who better than Joanna Lumley?
She's a bit feline, well, she sort of purrs when she talks. I mean, she even looks a bit like a cat. Christ, this is perfect. She must love cats. She'll show us the family tabby in a moment, you wait.
My journey begins here, at home. And it begins with a confession. We don't have a cat.
Well, I suppose it must be quite hard to find someone in Britain who owns a cat. No one seems to have proper expertise no more. Griff Rhys-Jones's chief qualification for splashing round Britain's rivers is that he's 60% water like the rest of us. While sending renowned investigative journalist Daniel Dyer to explore the phenomenon of UFOs seems odd because he's not an expert and seems to have made his mind up before he sets out, according to the title.
So I'm going to ask you straight away, I mean, do you believe there is intelligent life
in this room? He's also easily swayed by spurious evidence like dodgy footage of what looks like a rubber alien mask at a window.
No. What the hell is that?
I hope no one shows him Santa Claus the movie, he'll shit himself. These days, you don't even have to be vaguely suitable to front a documentary series, provided you're a celebrity.
I've always been passionate about rave culture, and I'm on a very personal journey to discover the roots of this fascinating scene and its diverse yet controversial musical legacy.
Summer of Love, 88, there was some big parties. 89 was probably even bigger. You know, some of them dudes were like 10,000 strong. Everyone was together, and you could be playing a tune at 120 BPM, go down to something like Aphrodisiac or something, which was like about 100 BPM. All the girls on the podiums, all the dancers everywhere, glow sticks, just a sea of glow sticks everywhere. Yeah, and don't you remember the dummies? You must have had Vicks rubbed on your back at one point when you was at a rave. Everyone had that. Yeah, they were the days though, eh? The old raving, wicked. It'd be nice to go back though, wouldn't it? To like the proper days when we was all out there.
Once documentaries were happy to show you stuff and take time to let you absorb it. Gradually they morphed into grandiose visual spectaculars like Walking with Dinosaurs.
We will show you how these magnificent creatures live, how they eat, fight, and reproduce.
Sensation was starting to overwhelm fact, and before long, if we wanted to learn about, say, the Blitz, it was no longer good enough to listen to people who actually lived through it.
No, boring. Instead, you had to hold your own Blitz in shows like the TV experiment Blitz Street, which would answer the burning question of what would happen if 1940s German explosives were dropped on British houses, a question most of us would have thought was pretty comprehensively answered by the 6-year experiment known as World War II. To see where it's all heading, look no further than Deadliest Warrior, a flabbergasting show which explores history's more fearsome brawlers by pitting them against each other in a manner which defies both sense and taste.
The notoriously evil Nazi Waffen-SS, Hitler's deadly assault forces that launched World War II, versus the vicious Viet Cong, murderous masters of jungle warfare.
Each week, 2 sides are chosen, and then the Deadliest Warrior team gleefully explore the injurious possibilities by road testing their respective arsenals on biomechanically accurate dummies and the occasional dead animal. For instance, here we discover what happens when you detonate a Viet Cong landmine beside a deceased pig, which sounds like the most mental Heston Blumenthal recipe of all time.
Oh,
Basically, what they've done there is they've taken the tragic futility of war and used it to blow up a pig. Once they work out who's got the edge in which top Trump-style category, their resident computer expert runs a simulation, pitching the two sides against one another in an imaginary mind space from which only one can emerge victorious. The thing is, it's so far removed from reality, you end up picking sides like it's a sport, which means it's possible to watch this and find yourself cheering on the Nazis, like they're Tim Henman or something. Go on, Nazi! Kill him! Yay! Brilliant! Oh no, the poor Nazi! Come on, get him! Yes! Hooray for the Nazis! Yes! Deutschland über alles! Go on! Come on. Oh my God. Come on. Come on. Yay! The Nazis won! Hooray for the Nazis! Hooray! Hooray for the Nazis, everyone! Yay! Hooray for the Nazis! Yay! Hooray for the Nazis! Yay! Please don't take this out of context and put it on YouTube. When you're dealing with a world in which facts are treated as though they've been dreamed up, you may as well make factual programmes not just about stuff we know, but about stuff we don't know, i.e. the unknown, you know? Back in 1992, a fictional spook show caused a stink because viewers thought it was real. Yet 10 years later, viewers were so desensitised to fact-bending, ostensibly real paranormal investigations had become a telly staple.
We've had viewers saying they've seen orbs, these small lights that they've seen in various places. We think we've caught sight of them in the undercroft. Have a look at this footage, which we recorded earlier on. Now, that is slow. That is amazing. I mean, is it not?
Thanks in part to TV's obsession with the supernatural, these days almost every son of a bitch in the country claims to have encountered a ghost at some point.
Real life spook talk.
I used to have this cup. It was a blue mug with a chip on the rim where you drink from. Anyway, one night I broke it. I dropped it or something. And I go, oh shit, you know. And a few weeks later, I was at a friend's house and I opened a cupboard and there it is.
The same cup?
Same cup.
With the chip in it?
No, gone.
Spook talk.
We were staying in a hotel room and very gradually it got colder.
How much colder?
Not much, probably a couple of degrees.
And how long did this last?
A couple of minutes.
You have been watching Real Life Spook Talk. Don't have nightmares.
And it's not just supernatural bibble people are prepared to believe. They'll choke down anything that looks like a documentary, even fatuous online conspiracy bumwash. All TV really taught us was to believe what screens said, even when they were lying. TV's relationship with information has taken fact on a lengthy and unusual journey. Documentaries morphed from highbrow historical lecturing into lowbrow historical pantomime remixing, and our taste for experts shifted from knowledgeable, respectable academics to tit-witted celebrity puppets. And what about those fact-based dramas? Well, this traditional sense of reverence soon got pissed through a tinsel-coated hosepipe. Where once the Tudors looked like old paintings, TV now portrayed them like the cast of a sex-crazed 16th century take on Hollyoaks. And the news went from a basic, unemotional explanation of the facts to a non-stop entertainment format sold on the basis of its emotive impact.
The world has changed, and we must change with it.
An entertainment format which sometimes talks to you like you're back in the classroom watching a school's programme.
So to have snow, the layers of the atmosphere below cloud level must be cold enough to keep the flakes from melting.
Don't patronise me, I'm not stupid, although I am 39 and bickering with the news.
So what did I learn from television apart from catchphrases and theme tunes? Almost nothing. I just looked at stuff and ended up back where I started.
Next this evening here on BBC4, there's some feel-good music headed your way, with the best of Island records kicking off with some Island greats at the BBC next.